Hi, welcome to or back to my channel. My name's Annie, and this is going to be the start of my end of year cramming vlog. Today is Friday the 27th of December, which means I have 28, 29, 30, 31. 4 days after today to get some reading done. I decided to film this vlog because I want to start 2025 with as few continuing over reads as possible. For some reason on my story graph, I am currently reading 11 books. So I figured I'd try to fix that a little bit before the new year starts. So I decided I'm going to try to seriously cram as much as possible into my last few days of 2024 so that I can hopefully finish these books. So I'll walk you through the TBR we're working with. It's quite ambitious, so I'm not too sure how this is gonna go. First up is The Hero of Ages. This is Mistborn Era 1, Book 3. It's the last book in this trilogy. This would be great to finish before the end of the year, and I think I will actually do it. I'm currently reading this, and this isn't a book like the other ones that I've actually set down and kind of forgotten about. This is one that I started just last week, I think. I'm on page 181. Doesn't look like that much, but it is almost 200 pages out of a 725 page book. You know, this is doable. If you don't know what Mistborn is, it is a fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson, who is a very famous, prolific, and I would say well-respected fantasy author. I love this bookmark so much, but every time I talk with books, it does that, so I'm gonna take it out for now. So this is his first series that was published. He had a book published before these, but it was a standalone. To put it very simply, it's about a world with this really incredible magic system where people can metabolize metals, like little flakes of metals, and it gives them powers such as pushing and pulling on objects with metal in them, and even pulling and pushing on people's emotions. It's super complex. It's super cool. I love the magic system. I find it so interesting. And there are people called Mistborns who can use all of these different metals, because most people that have these powers are called mistings and they can only use one metal. So Mistborns are really special and kind of rare. And in the first book, we follow two Mistborns that are working with a team to overthrow the power system in their world. Book 2 takes place a year after the events of Book 1, and then Book 3 takes place a year after the events of Book 2. So it's a really expansive series. Each of the books are this long. The endings of each have really big consequences, and then we explore how the characters are still dealing with those consequences a year after the fact. And I think that might be actually part of why I enjoyed the second book more than the first book. There was something so interesting about seeing the characters deal with the consequences of their own actions, and I'm having that same enjoyment with The Hero of Ages. I don't know if Mistborn will ever be a favorite series for me in the way that it is for some people. There's something about it that doesn't scratch that itch in my brain that's oh my god, I'm obsessed with this, but I'm having a really good time. So first up, I'm gonna try to finish that because I don't want to get out of my Mistborn mood. I want to stick with this and finish it because I think that's how I'll enjoy it the best. I think with big books, it's important for me to try to read them as quickly as I can and in pretty big chunks, and that helps me really enjoy them. Next, a book that should be pretty easy to finish. I have Dragonspell by Donita K. Paul. This was one of my favorite books as a kid. It's the first in a 5-book fantasy series that's Christian fantasy. I am an atheist now, so I picked these up at a time this year, honestly maybe 2 months ago, when I was feeling super uninspired. I was kind of beginning to enter into this reading slump, and I was feeling super sensitive to any sort of dark subject matter. So I thought I'd pick these up and see if they hold up. Why didn't I fold down the page I'm like about halfway through this. Like there-ish. I'm like pretty much halfway. And this book is only what, like 335 pages. So it won't be hard to finish. So far, it's a little bit more Christian than I remember, in a way that's like kind of alienating me a little bit, which I'm kind of heartbroken about, because these were my favorite books as a kid and I really wanted them to hold up. I bought the whole set like secondhand online earlier this year. In total it was like 20 bucks, but still that makes me kind of mad, because I think I will give these away if they really don't hold up. It's hard because I don't think I can in good faith like recommend these unless you're a Christian. I bet they're great, but for me it's almost like I can't really give an unbiased review, because when I started my reread, it's like I have read this book so many times that it's almost like I'm not just reading it now, I am also, there's so much nostalgia. Like I am remembering myself reading it when I was in like 2nd grade and where I was sitting in our house and our relatives were visiting, and like I remember like so many times how I've read this story and talked about it with my family, and like it's very connected to other things for me. Sorry, this is becoming so long. Anyway, I gotta read this. I gotta finish it and decide if I'm gonna continue my reread of the series. Next up, this one is looking, I can't lie, is looking super unlikely, because I don't know if I should start it over, but that's The Priory of the Orange Tree. Don't laugh at me. Actually, you can. I'm laughing at myself. Oh, wait, why is it so fat? Okay, that's fine. It's like 800 pages. Wait. For some reason in my head, it's like so much bigger than mistborn, but I guess it's actually not. No, they're like pretty much the same. I don't think I'm gonna get to this in this, because I think I want to start it over. I was really loving it, but I wasn't reading it for a video, and then it like got pushed to the side, which is a problem in and of itself, but I want to be able to fully appreciate it and go back. But I was loving it. Either this will be something I try to begin again in this vlog, or hopefully I can get to it in January. It's nice because it's a standalone. This is honestly really, the plot is super expansive, so it's kind of hard to describe. There's lots of different things going on, but basically it's about dragons, a really complex political system, and both the east and the west sides of this world, and how it's like about politics across nations, and it's really interesting, and I was really liking it. But yeah, I think I have to start it over, because honestly I can't remember too much about it, and it has a bunch of lore that I was learning and now I've kind of forgotten. So if I have time at the end, which I probably won't, I'll restart this because it's sick. Or maybe I won't. I guess we'll have to see. That's the joy of a vlog. Who knows what's gonna happen. Okay, and then if I need to switch things up, I do have 2 mangas that I'm currently reading. One has been on pause for a long time, maybe a couple months, and it's because I was in that phase of not wanting to read anything dark, and that's No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. This is adapted by Junji Ito. I got to here. So, okay, I got like a third of the way through this. It's hard to read. It's hard to read. I know that this is a super famous prose novel. It's like a Japanese classic, and I am super intrigued by it. I would love to read this and read that, but honestly, I had to stop because it's really hard to read. It's really hard to read. And the illustrations by Junji Ito, fabulous, so good, so disturbing, and adds such a like chilling undertone to this book. So we'll see if I can get through it. The thing is I love horror. This is just really sad and really fucked up, actually. My brother did get this for me for Christmas, like in 2023. So I do want to finish it. Even if I finish it and then give it away or something. At least I finished the book my brother gave me. So we'll see, but I think that the manga I'd probably more likely reach for at first is Monster Volume 1. This is a reread of the, like, perfect edition, so it's massive. I don't know if you call it an omnibus, because I don't know how many chapters are in, like, just Volume 1, but this has the first 16 chapters. I feel like, yeah, this is definitely an omnibus. I read the perfect editions Volumes 1 and 2, which I actually have over there from the library, at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, and I loved them. And then all of a sudden I was like not in a manga mood and I completely fell off, and now I just want to start it over. So I know I'm gonna love this. It is a reread, so really this should be my priority when it comes to manga. Oh, this is all actually feeling really impossible now that I have all the books right here like this. But anyway, I am home for the night. I had work, it was fine, and I'm actually just gonna like settle in and kind of, I might do some sprints, like watch some sprints, but I also might just kind of turn on like an ambiance thing on my laptop and read for however long I feel like reading. And I will let you guys know a more in-depth, and I will let you guys know more in-depth, why can't I speak? And I'll let you guys know more in-depth thoughts either tonight or tomorrow. Wish me luck, because I have a lot to read. Hi, so unfortunately it has been 2 days. Today is the 29th and I am only on page 235 of The Hero of Ages. I am liking this book. I just was busy yesterday, which sounds like such a shit excuse. Actually, no, that's not an excuse. Like, I woke up in the morning, my mom and I went to the mall, and then I had to go straight from the mall to work, and then I was feeling sick during my whole shift, and then I came home and just like watched some Going 17 and went to bed. I did read one chapter of this yesterday, right before bed. But yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that's looking most likely in this video, if it's even possible, is finishing this and the Dragon Spell book and maybe doing some manga. I also forgot to mention, before we get into this, that I am reading 2 books on audio. One of them I just got my hold back, and it's one that I put on pause a long time ago, like by near Halloween, and it's Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, I think. I don't even know. I haven't listened to it since then, but my hold just came back through. It took me too long to listen to, and my hold expired when I had it checked out before, and then I had to place another hold, and I've only just gotten it now. So I might try to finish that, but I am also reading Promising Young Woman on audio right now, and I'm like 25% of the way through, and I am really enjoying that, so I might just finish that first. I don't know, audio is not really my priority though. So I'm just gonna talk a bit about Hero of Ages. Let me see if I can move you a little bit. Okay, also I have my like 17 shrine right by my bed because I went to their concert and I got a bunch of photo cards and I was like, what do I do with them? So I have all this. Anyway, so yeah, Hero of Ages I am really liking, but there is one thing that does kind of get to me kind of frequently about this series by Sanderson. Oh, it's so bright. And it's the writing. Sometimes it's just not really very polished. I would say his plots are super good and complex, and I love that. His characters I do like, but sometimes the character work feels pretty simple. Like, a lot of the times he's just kind of telling us what's going on in characters' heads instead of showing us. Like, he'll be like, the main character is Vin, and he'll be like, Vin thinks back to this time in her life, and she really wonders whether she's that girl that she used to be or this girl now. And it's like literally that is like the sentence, and I'm wanting a bit more nuance with that. But I do know that this is Brandon Sanderson's first series, and he's probably grown a lot as a writer, so I am looking forward to reading through the Cosmere and seeing his writing grow as I read through it. But there is one instance that just really took me out of the story. I marked it down, and it's this sentence. So it just says, now his stomach simply twisted and he felt sick at the thought of taking pretty much any action. And that's just not correct grammar. It's on page 166, like saying, sick at the thought of taking pretty much any action. That phrase is just not grammatically, maybe it is correct. Like, I know what he means, but like, say it differently. Say it in a way that reads better. Like, it's almost like his style in this book is a little bit too conversational, where like, you know, sometimes if I'm talking, maybe I'd say something like that, but in a book, you don't want to read that because you're looking for better grammar. But this is kind of like a small gripe I have with this book. Like, I am really loving it, and I do really just need to sit down and finish it. This brings me to today, actually. So I have work later, but right now it's like 1:15, and I don't have to leave for work until like 4:15. So I'm gonna go to Barnes & Noble because they're doing a sale on hardbacks, and I think just a sale in general, and it ends today. So I'm gonna go to Barnes & Noble even though I just got a bunch of books for Christmas. I'm kind of loosely looking for Eliza Clark's new short story collection, which I didn't even know about until like a couple days ago and came out in November. But I love Eliza Clark. I wrote my dissertation on boy parts, and I loved Penance, so I have to buy that. I might not get a book if they don't have it. I don't know. I'm gonna try to do some reading there. Sometimes when I go to Barnes & Noble, I do this thing where I'll leave like this copy at home, and they'll probably have it in store, so I will just read their copy because it kind of feels better to read theirs than to bring my own book to a Barnes & Noble. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think I'm probably going to do that and maybe edit a little bit while I'm there and try to really read more when I come home tonight. I'll also be listening to the audiobook for Promising Young Woman. Oh my god, I've been saying Promising Young Woman. I love that film. Good film, you should watch it. But it's actually Bright Young Woman is the book. So I'll tell you more about my thoughts on that a little bit later, maybe tonight, because right now I'm trying to eat a little lunch and then go. So yeah, I'll talk to you later. I'm gonna do it. I need to read lots of this book, and I love it, so it should not be like an issue for me. Okay, bye. Hello, traveler.
Hello, traveler.
Cheers. Happy 2025. As you can tell, it's a new year because I'm such a new me. This is actually kind of embarrassing though, because it's actually January 7th. I haven't finished a book. I haven't finished a single book since I talked to you last. Partly because my life is like slightly in shambles. I say that, but like it was fine. And then one thing happened and now I'm like, oh my god, life sucks and is really hard. Sorry, I'm gonna try to find the beginning of this yarn. I'm going to crochet myself a little cardigan. I'm excited about it. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like glittery. But anyway, yeah, things could be going better for me, especially with this vlog. Like, I really thought I was gonna finish at least one of these books before it became 2025, and here we are, a week into the new year, and no books have been finished. Now, that in and of itself is not a bad thing. Like, I'm not stressed about not having finished a book yet this year. I just kind of like wanted to finish some of these books that I've been reading because new year, fresh start. And that's not really happening, but I do have some updates for you. Actually, kind of a lot. I think this might be a bit of a longer check-in, but it's been a minute. Let me see if there's any like life updates I can give you to like ease us into this, like, and explain myself, you know? I went to a New Year's Eve party, which is super weird because I really thought I wasn't going to go. And it was people I went to high school with. I have not spoken to most of these people in at least 4 years. Like, yeah, for some of them it was like 6 years because I wasn't really around senior year, and it was actually a fun time. Like, I didn't hate it, and I had a really good like holiday season. But then something happened on the 4th of January that I'm not really gonna get into, but it was like I was at work and something happened that just didn't make me feel very safe. I'm okay, I'm not hurt, like things are being taken care of, but like it has kind of thrown me into a little bit of a tailspin where now I'm afraid of everything. So, you know, that's tough to start off the new year that way. And that has kind of contributed to a general feeling I have of like I'm in a bit of a life slump. And so I feel like I'm falling back into a reading slump, which I just got out of one. So that's kind of where I'm at. Let me see if this is long enough yet. Things could be going better. I think first I'm gonna talk about The Hero of Ages because we've kind of been talking about this book. But I just finished part 4. Wait, no, I just started part 4, Beautiful Destroyer. Or I haven't started, what am I saying? I haven't started it. I just finished part 3. So I'm like 60% in or something, maybe. I've read like 40 pages today, but honestly, before today, I hadn't read this book in about a week. And it's not that I don't like it, but I actually did figure out why I'm struggling with this book in a conversation I had with my dad. My dad has read the first Mistborn book, The Final Empire, and he loved it, which is weird because he usually just reads like really slow-paced lit fic or spy novels. It's like there's no in between, really. And he was like obsessed with The Final Empire and then never read any of the other books. But he kind of like has a sense of Mistborn, and he was asking me how I liked this one. And I was like, you know, like it's hard to describe, but I enjoy these so much intellectually, but I can't, like, they will never be a favorite series for me, and I almost like don't want to pick them up, but then when I do, I have a really good time. But there's just something that doesn't click like in my heart and make me obsessed with these the way I want to be. He was asking me for examples, and I gave him an example, which I'll tell you in a second, and then he basically was like, do you think it's this? And I was like, Dale, you are actually a genius. So the example I talked to my dad about has to do with Vin, our main character, and I assume this girl right here. She's this girl that grew up on the streets as a thief, and in the first book, she goes undercover as nobility at these balls to gain some intel. And she has this whole thing of like, oh my god, I'm so not used to this. Like, I never wear dresses. This is crazy. Will I ever fit in? But then she really takes to it, and she's like, oh my god, this is weird. Like, how can both things exist in me at once? Which, fine. That's fine. And this is the 3rd book, so you would think that after, 2 more of these babies, she would be kind of over that. And she does have a bit of a different perspective, but this is why it's a bit frustrating to read Brandon's work in this series. How do I put this? For me, it's about the way that he writes about people processing their feelings and the amount that he does it. I'm just gonna read you the quote. So this is in chapter 30. There's another situation in which she is dressing up and going to an event. For a moment, she was that same young girl of over 4 years before, arriving at Keep Venture for her very first ball, nervous and worried that she wouldn't be able to play her part. Yet she felt none of that same insecurity. She didn't worry if she'd find acceptance or belief. She'd done this spoilery stuff. And more remarkable than either accomplishment, somehow in the chaos and mess, she discovered who she was. Not a girl of the streets, though that was where she'd been raised. Not a woman of the court, though she appreciated the beauty and grace of the balls. Someone else. Someone she liked. Okay, that's great, right? Good for her. Good for you, girly. And then, I kid you not, 2 pages later, she's doubting this. So she's talking about how she stood in her beautiful gown, and she'd explicitly worked to keep herself out of situations where she would wear gowns and mingle with nobility over the past couple years, trying not to, like, make herself feel, like, too full of herself, I guess. And then it says, yet she'd been the one to suggest this infiltration to Ellen. Why? Why put herself back in this position? She wasn't displeased with who she was. She didn't need to prove anything by putting on another silly gown and making courtly conversation with a bunch of nobility she didn't know. Did she? Girl, literally just 2 pages ago, you were telling us how much you liked yourself. And now it's like, am I insecure? Do I need this validation? And the way that these emotions are written about is so telling, not showing, that it reads super simplistic. It's like, she felt this way, and then she went to the ball, and she was thinking about this, and then she wondered this. But she's learned some lessons along the way. Like, surely we can think of something more nuanced from someone who has such incredible world building. And then 2 chapters later, it's like repeated again. And it's like, she'd spent 16 years on the streets. She'd earned that side of her. Yet it had taken her barely a month to adapt to noble life. It had seemed impossible to her that something that came so easily could be as important a part of herself as the years spent on the streets. But it was. I had to confront this, she realized. This person tried to make me do it 2 years ago, but I wasn't ready. She needed to prove to herself not only that she could move among the nobility, but that she belonged with them. Like, girl, why are we still here? It's been ages. Why? That takes me out of the story massively. And my dad made a really good point, and he was like, it sounds like Brandon Sanderson is a guy that is super intellectual and so caught up in, like, the plotting and planning that it's so good, but then it's like the emotional maturity and complexity of his characters kind of fall to the wayside. And I think that perfectly describes how I feel about this series and why this will never be a favorite or 5-star series for me, even though I think it's absolutely beautiful in terms of, like, the intricacy of plot and the way that things progress from book 1 to book 3. Like, I am blown away by how in the first book there were little details that didn't seem very consequential that are now coming into play in a big way in book 3. Like, crazy, and I love it. But I think that's why it's hard for me to get through this book, is that I like the characters, but when their emotions are explained to me in this way, it takes me out of the story, and then I start to be annoyed with characters that I'm supposed to like Vin. All that to say, I think I will be happiest and enjoy this the most if I finish this quickly, which I probably said before in the vlog. So I will get right on that. And I just need to finish this book. In other news, I am reading oh my god, why do I keep saying this? Promising Young Woman, by the way, is one of my favorite movies of all time. Watch it, but heavy trigger warnings for R word. The book I'm reading is Bright Young Woman by, I think, Jessica Knoll. I am like 75% of the way into this book on audio. I am loving this book. I think it's so good. I think it's so well written. It makes me want to cry. I love it, and I really, really want a physical copy. It might be one of my best books. Like, it would definitely be up there on my best books list if this was still 2024. So I don't know if it'll make the list 2025, but it might. Like, it is just that incredible. It is about Ted Bundy, kind of a retelling of his murder of several women in a sorority at Florida State University. And it never actually refers to him by name. The book refers to him as the defendant. It's brilliant. It follows several different perspectives, but I would say that we're mostly following the president of the sorority that faces the attack. I have no words for how beautiful and insightful and respectful I think this book is to the victims of a real crime. I really want to, once I'm done with it, look into how she researched it and all sorts of stuff, because I think I've heard that she was very respectful and, like, talked to people that were involved. One of the best things about the book is that it kind of shows how badly we misinterpret Ted Bundy, because the media pushed this narrative of him that he's a bright young man, which is apparently, I think, how the judge referred to him during the trial. He said he was a bright young man and he wished that circumstances were different so that Bundy could like work for him or something. And the book reminds us that this man was not particularly bright. He failed to get into law school and only got into like a mediocre one after being kicked out of a different one. He was like not very charming and handsome. People referred to him as a creep frequently. Women did. He wasn't this like genius, charming man that everyone says he is. He was just an average misogynist asshole that killed people. And I'm obsessed with it. I wish I had it physically so I could like quote to you guys from it, but the writing is insane and it's so good. It's really hard for me to read, as I'm sure it's hard for a lot of people to read. But basically the incident that happened at my work a few days ago has made it hard for me to want to really pick this up to finish it. It's not that I'm not wanting to pick it up and finish it because I'm really wanting to. It's that I'm worried how it's going to kind of affect me. I think that I'm going to give it a shot and try to finish it tonight and then read Mistborn after, because I need to just sit down and be reading, honestly. And I really want to finish this because I love it and because I want to get a physical copy and reread it. I think that this book is so kind of timeless, maybe. Like, I think it was a pretty recent release, but the events occur in like the 70s. Like, the police are dismissing them, the men in their lives are dismissing them, and also saying like, "I'll put me in a room with him, I'll get him." Yeah, nothing's changed really from then to today, and I think that's terrifying. But it's really about the women of the story and their resilience and the way that they band together and like sisterhood and all that. And I think it's so beautiful. So I am excited to continue reading it. Jesus Christ. For the rest of the night, I am going to quickly plan my best books of 2024 video, like make that list because I have to film that soon. And then I'm going to read, and I think I'm going to do bright young woman. I'm going to try to finish it, and then to like make myself feel a little bit better before I go to sleep, I'll read Mistborn, or I'll watch something, depending on how like much promising bright young woman affects me before sleepy time. So I will update you guys hopefully when I've finished a book. Like, one of these days it has to happen. Bye. I'm here to finally end this vlog. I have finished The Hero of Ages and therefore the Mistborn series, Era 1. It did take me almost a month to finish this, which I didn't feel like that was ideal. I mean, it was a 700-page book, over 700 pages, but I would have liked to finish it faster. I found that my interest really lulled during the middle portion of the book, and I just was not super engaged. I think that was around when I last checked in, and then it got to like where I had maybe 200 pages left and I was locked in. I feel like there's a lot to say about this, but I don't want to spoil it. The ending was something that I was surprised by, but at the same time, how do I put this? Like, I kind of just didn't think it would actually go there. I thought that that made the most sense with the way that things have been building up throughout the series. I thought that the ending made sense, but but I didn't think it would actually go there for some reason. And I think that I'm fine with the ending, but if I had cared a little bit more about the characters and been a bit more invested in the characters, I would not have liked the ending. I hope that doesn't really spoil much, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. Overall, I did decide to give this a 4-star. It was good, and I'm really excited to read more from Sanderson, and the way that he crafts his stories and plots things out is so incredible. Like the way that things that were so small and seemingly inconsequential in book 1 have become a whole massive thing in book 3 just takes so much planning. So I'm always really impressed when authors do that. But I have the same complaints that I've talked about before, mostly just when it comes to character writing and not feeling fully invested in the story because of the characters. But overall, I'm really happy I finished it. I think it's a really good series. I'm happy. And when I finished it, I did kind of immediately want to go pick up Era 2, which is a good feeling. So I guess in this vlog, I've really just read 2 books. I do have here Dragon Spell and No Longer Human, which I am kind of soft DNFing both of these. This one I found super depressing. I think I've talked about this. And this one I had read as a kid and loved, and it's kind of like, I'm not loving it as much on reread. So I think I'm gonna wait till I'm in the mood for these books and then try to tackle them. So kind of soft DNFing. Can't believe this vlog took me so long to film. It is, today I think is the 17th or 18th of January. And I did finish The Hero of Ages a few days ago. I finished it on the 15th. So it has been not the start to the reading year that I would have wanted it to be, but I will say that since I finished The Hero of Ages, I have finished 3 volumes of manga, and 2 of them are the like omnibus monster perfect editions. So they're the size of they're like 400 pages. So that makes me feel good. I'm kind of just rambling. Hi, so I'm just sitting down to film, finally, my best books of 2024 video, which hopefully will be up in a couple days because I'm posting this video today on the day I'm filming this. But I realized I never gave you like a full review of Right Young Woman, and I thought I should. I loved it. There's not really much to add in terms of my thoughts on the book because I do feel like I really expressed those earlier in the video. Also, I'm okay. I know I was crying. It was just a rough time, but I'm doing all right, and I did have an okay time finishing the rest of the book. Like I felt fine afterwards. I swear every time I try to film, something happens, something noisy happens, because I have to film with like my door open to the outside because it gets too hot in this room. If you didn't know, I do live in my family's sunroom because I moved back here after uni, and it gets really hot. I did say earlier that I wanted to do some research on how Jessica Knoll wrote this video, so that's what this part is gonna be. So I found a Vanity Fair interview that she did and a Time magazine interview that she did too. I'll give you a couple quotes of hers from the Vanity Fair article, and I'll link them both down in the description. So she does mention in this that she did interview one of the women who survived the attack on the sorority, which does seem like a pretty important thing to do. Like, if you're gonna write a fictionalized true crime story about a crime that actually happened, you should do your due diligence and try to interview the people that the crime impacted if they're still alive. I also saw when I was looking at Goodreads reviews that there have been lots of debates about the ethics of writing this kind of book. Some people think that it's wrong for someone to basically profit off another person's tragedy, and that Jessica Knoll is just kind of contributing to the true crime genre. And I do understand that almost like hypocrisy of wanting to shed a light on something and saying like, you know, you have like sympathy for these women and stuff, and you're a woman yourself, but at the same time, she's profiting from this book. I would assume quite a lot, because I think it's quite a popular book. I think the best... Do not tell me that there's construction today. I will kill someone.
I need to start drinking alcohol. Give me one of those bottles.
Then from
I closed my door. Look what I'm willing to do for you. I'm willing to perish from heat. But I swear to God, every time I try to film, someone starts doing road work, and it pisses me off, because I'm not always in the mood to film. It's okay. Anyway, I think that what she could have done, and arguably what she should have done, is to donate at least some of the proceeds from her book to like a women's shelter or something, but there's no mention of that I found. So yeah, I think the morals of writing this type of story are pretty ambiguous. However, I do think, in my opinion, that the impact that the book has does mean something and is valuable. Like, I do think that this is quite a popular book by a relatively well-known author. I know she also did Luckiest Girl Alive, and that became like a Netflix film and all of that. And I think that it's a really important retelling because it shows facts of the case that have been so like grossly forgotten about or misconstrued, and definitely kind of dismantles the persona that we see Ted Bundy as having in like adaptations of what happened. For example, you know, Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy and things like that. So I'm going to read you a couple quotes. So Jessica Knoll talks about how she got the idea for the book from watching Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, which I haven't watched, but I know that it's on Netflix, and she watched it back in 2019, and she thought that she knew a lot about the case, but then she was learning new things. So this is her talking now in the interview. I was like, I want to know more, and I started researching and realized pretty quickly that a lot of what we know about Ted Bundy has been grossly exaggerated in terms of his intelligence, his charm, and even his scholastic aptitude. I was also bothered by the fact that it was suggested that how he got his victims had to do with his looks and his charm, when it was extensively documented that he would pose as injured and solicit women for help. I found lots of transcripts, interviews with witnesses who described encounters with him or described witnessing an encounter with him and a victim where they were very clear that like these women were not smitten with him. They were irritated. They were kind of like, oh, I guess I have to help this guy because he's on crutches or whatever. So he would like feign injuries to get women to help him, which I think is such an effective thing to do, because also the way that we're raised as women, you're kind of usually brought up to be someone that's very, you know, you're helpful and you don't cause any issues, and you have this like reflex to kind of be polite even when you might be in danger, and posing it as an injured person is so manipulative and takes advantage of that aspect of womanhood. And then she continues on and says, it just made me really kind of indignant on their behalf that that's the way that they were remembered. I was like, God, I know guys like that who are objectively handsome, and like he was fine looking, but there's just something kind of off about them, and you're like, there's something about you I don't trust. And it was clear that these women had experienced that, but it wasn't really recorded as part of what we remember about the case. I'm going to skip down to the part where she does talk about interviewing one of the women. She says, I interviewed one of the survivors from the Florida State University attack. She was very generous with her story and her time. She's an amazing person who really made the decision at a young age that like, this was a very terrible thing that happened, a very frightening and physically painful thing that happened. She was in the hospital and had to have many surgeries because she was beaten very severely, but that she wasn't going to let this define her, and that she wasn't going to be afraid of men. That was very important to her. She's like, I refuse to be afraid of men. I just found her to be someone with the most grit I think I've ever spoken to, but who was also incredibly sweet and bubbly. I just adored her. And I love that. That kind of almost made me tear up. Like, I think that, not now. I struggle to not make statements like I hate men and stuff like that. It's hard when you've had a lot of experiences that would cause you to be frightened of men or angry at them and all of the above. I'm terrified of men. I can't even lie. Like, I'm so scared. And I think that there's a bit of that is helpful. Like, you do need to be kind of aware as a woman, but I don't think it is actually that helpful to be just petrified of men, because then you won't go out and, I don't know, if you're a straight woman, you won't go out and date. You won't like even form great friendships with guys around you, or stick up to yourself at work, for instance. Like, it just is not a helpful way to live your life. I think I was getting on a tangent there, but I just really love that the woman that she interviewed made that really clear. I'm gonna look now at the Time Magazine interview and just see if there's any other quotes I want to share. I'll just read a short bit from this article. It does mention something which I didn't know, or maybe didn't remember about Noel, which is that Luckiest Girl Alive, which is about a woman recovering after a brutal gang R-word when she's young, is actually based on her own life experience. So she is a victim of gang R-word. It's tough because it's like, you know, you shouldn't have had to go through something traumatic to be able to like write a book on these things, but a lot of her work, it seems, does center on very explicit traumatic material. And I think that for her, it seems like a way of working through these things in herself, which makes sense. And it doesn't mean that she should then like capitalize on another's pain. So I'm kind of in the middle, I think, in terms of my experience. She mentions how Kathy, the woman that she interviewed, her mindset was don't shy away from it. I think she feels overlooked by history, and that it's important that people bear witness to what was done to her and her sisters, but not all of the victims agree. The article mentions that when Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, and the Zac Efron film were both released in 2019, the mother of one of the victims told people, "Why keep rubbing our faces in it all the time? It's disgusting to me." These people that lived on after the crime are repeatedly reached out to whenever there's a new kind of popular interest in the story, which is disgusting. Anyway, I'm gonna end it with this quote because this clip has gotten really long, but she says, "No matter what I write, there's always the chance that it's going to trigger people. I do my best to be as thoughtful about the process as I can, while also trying to remain true to what I have to say." She says her novel serves an explicit purpose, setting the record straight on who Bundy was. Kathy was the first one to say to me, Kathy's the victim, he wasn't that handsome, he wasn't that smart, but he was written about like he was a criminal mastermind. I think I have very complicated feelings about this book, as I'm sure a lot of people do. So let me know what you think in the comments, if you're wanting to. But I just thought I'd wrap up my review there. I still really enjoyed the book, and I think that for me, it was very meaningful. So I'll leave it at that.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I hope that you enjoyed this vlog. If you want to see more from me in the future, consider subscribing. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you've watched up to this point, leave a the wizard emoji for the Hero of Ages. I mean, there's not really any wizards in this, but just for like the fantasy vibe. Let me know if you've finished any books yet this year, what they are, if you've liked them, and I will see you in my next video, hopefully coming soon. Bye.